most recent one that we have.
And at the time that AWMS began drilling and injection activity, what known seismic activity was in the immediate vicinity of the well?
Well, at the very end of 2011, the 4.0 event occurred at the North Star number 1 well. That well's approximately 7 miles as the crow flies from the American Water location. I think it was fairly well known after that occurred. The newspapers and the media covered that quite heavily. We shortly after that occurred, initiated a temporary moratorium on the issuance of injection well permits, so we could study in all areas and for all applications that we would receive how we might apply conditions that were specific to helping evaluate induced seismicity.
So there was an event that was about 7 miles away, but in terms of known maybe it's too imprecise when I'm saying immediate vicinity, that there was nothing that was like in the present case within that was very close to the well.
The closest known seismic activity was 7 miles away. When the company made their application, we didn't have any knowledge of any seismic activity in the immediate area of their application, coordinates for their application.
How did the lack of known seismic activity in the immediate area impact the division's original decision to issue a permit to drill and the order to authorize the injection to begin with?
Well, if you have a known fault, you can evaluate the fault, its relative proximity to the injection operation, the depth of the fault if it is known. You can correlate that to the depth of the injection well and the proximity of the potential injection to that fault. You can evaluate the orientation of the fault relative to the primary axis of stress, which gives you some indication of the potential for induced seismicity. So we didn't know any of those factors. All those things that I mentioned were unknown to us when we were reviewing the application for this location, for the American Water location. Because of the seismicity that we had been experiencing, we had promulgated rules under the authority of statute and applied conditions to not only these permits but other permits to help us do monitoring to try to gain that kind of information.
And if you had known all the facts that are known today, and a permit application came in under the exact same circumstances, would you be able to approve that permit and then issue a chief's order to authorize injection?
Well, if we had information, what we would have to do is evaluate the relative risk, and it would require even a more hefty risk analysis than has been done in the past. If somebody wants to inject next to a fault, next to especially a known active fault, then the risk goes up compared to an area where there either is no activity or there are faults with little active potential. So at a minimum, if we would have issued the permit knowing then what we know now, it's very likely we would have applied additional conditions to the permit, or it's conceivable that we may have denied the permit.
What alerted the division to the seismic activity at the AWMS well site?
One of the things we required as a result of the new legislation we have a list of things that we can ask to help evaluate the potential for seismicity and, to a degree, the relative risk that may occur. One of the things we required of the company was to install a seismic array. All that means is we asked them to get a plan together to install seismic units in and around the well. How you install those, where you install those, really affects the quality of data. So we told the company they had to submit a plan. We had to review the plan, we had to approve the plan, they had to then implement the plan, and any of the data that came off those seismic units had to be both compatible with the Ohio Net system, which is the Division of Oil and Gas Seismic Network, and it had to be available to us in real time. In other words, it had to have a computer modem and other things so it could transmit the data through a piece of software to us in real time. And transmissions generally occur in a matter of 2-3 minutes. We get an actual reading from those units.